Jen's on.
Find somebody or what? We are trying to do this.
All right, good evening, everyone. It seems like you're so far away tonight. It's like I need to have brought my binoculars to see everybody, especially Lena down there. So we are ready to start our board meeting this evening. We've already had our workshop, so we will start with the flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We can have a moment of silence, please. Tammy, would you call the roll call, please?
Sure. Karen Armagos. Here. Megan Dreher. Here. Jen Fight.
Jen, can you hear us?
I'm about to drop her.
Maybe we dropped her.
We'll check, we'll give her a call back.
I'll do the others. Diane Page. Here. Corey Sherman.
Here.
Lena Southworth.
Here.
Jermaine Stump.
Here.
Kelly Terwilliger.
Here.
Mark Patel.
We trying to call her back?
Yep.
Hello?
Got you back, Jen?
Yep, not me.
All righty.
Okay, so we just did the roll call, Jen. We're going to move on to item 4, which is the consideration to waive the reading and the approval of the minutes of the workshop meeting held on February 8th and the voting meeting. Do I have a motion for that?
I'm going to make a motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. And do we have any public participation this evening? It doesn't look like it. But we do have a presentation, so I have Tim here is with us here tonight. And Anna is not, but Tim has a presentation for us.
Yeah. Well, hi, everyone. I only get to see you like once or twice a year, so greetings. I wish I could come around and be a little bit closer, shake your hands like I usually do, but obviously circumstances are what they be. I was asked to come talk about the approval of the job description for the special education teacher for itinerant services. Now, I know that we are still looking at the need of this, but as far as the creation of the position, I wanted to kind of answer a few questions, and hopefully you have this in front of you. I'm not going to try to read word for word, but these are kind of the important questions that I thought that anybody would be asking if they had any questions. And the first one was, okay, so what is this position anyway? The itinerant services, when you look at itinerant services and the amount of service that we provide any student with an IEP under IDEA, you could be full-time, which is essentially more than 80%, or you could be something referred to as supplemental, which a lot of students fall into. Typically, these are students who receive moderate to intensive supports, but still have a good portion of time spent in the general education curriculum. And an itinerant support would typically be a student who spends their day in the general education setting, and they receive supports that cannot necessarily be met by the general education teacher in the classroom. Most of the time, these are students with speech and language, or they might be pulled for occupational therapy, they might be pulled for physical therapy. Some students might even be pulled for sensory room time and so on and so forth. The majority of the time they're in the classroom. We do have a population of students that I feel that we could be providing a little more support for through this type of position, and I'll get down to that in a little bit here. But this position specifically would be focusing on providing that itinerant, like functional academic instruction. These would be students who would typically be, well, not typically, but usually they're identified with an intellectual disability, and they would be or find themselves in a life skills support classroom. many of the students who go into a life skills support classroom are not there all day. For example, we have the IU programs here that run an artistic support classroom and a life skills support classroom. Again, typically for students with cognitive needs, and they need a replacement curriculum rather than a modified or accommodated curriculum. So they're performing at undergrad level due to cognitive ability, but that doesn't mean they can't exist within the general education classroom. What happens when we can't provide that support, though, is the only other option is going into an IU classroom. And when you go into the IU classroom, you go into the IU classroom. So we actually have a few students within this building that are in IU classrooms for just like a reading and math, and then the rest of the day they're coming out and going into our classrooms. We have other students that could be placed out that could really be here if we had that type of support available to them. So the social emotional support would be the other piece. And I know the first, anytime you think about, you're thinking about, I think anybody's mind will go to students with severe behavioral needs. And that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is a preventative measure in this case. So what do I mean by that? Typically, students do not come into a kindergarten classroom or first grade classroom and they're just uncontrollable. That's not what we see. Typically, what we see is students come in. There are some obviously outliers in some cases where we see that immediately right away. They need that incredibly intensive support. But there's other students who will go through the school system, and it's by no fault of the teachers, no fault of the school board, no fault of the administration. It's just that support that they could use on an itinerant basis. One period a day, 30 minutes a day, working with somebody who's specially trained in this, that could prevent that from escalating to a point, give the student the coping skills they need, and prevent having to go into outside programs. That's what this position would be for, that preventative measure to help students and help us keep our students here and provide the supports that they need. There are students with such severe disabilities that we need the collaboration that we find with IU programs and the other schools around us. And that's never going to go away. But I do think with the right person and the right position, and if we do need it based on a determination here, we can at least get that position approved, and then not approved, but the position description approved, so we can take a look at it and take a look at our numbers. So how does this help students? For one, it provides that tier 2 and 3 supports. Those of you who may not be as aware of kind of how we work within the school system nowadays, we have tier 1 supports, which is essentially the supports, both behavioral, emotional, social, and educational, that we've done within the general education classroom by the general education teaching listening supports. Then tier 2 and tier 3, we start to get a little bit more intervention there as we see students not responding. This position, or somebody in this position, can specifically focus on these types of needs, the intellectual needs for the replacement curriculum and the social emotional needs. That can provide some of that missing piece that we have right now to provide the teachers the supports that they need to keep those students in their classrooms, in our classrooms. So they can function without the disturbances, without them, because of they don't have the right coping skills, helping them be able to maintain their composure, to be able to sit and benefit from the instruction, but not only the instruction, but from being with their peers. And that's another very important piece. I know we always talk about the instruction, but I think the last year has shown us, with kids being out so much, that there's a bigger piece to play here, and that's that social connection with the community that they're in. And we will do anything for students, but if we can keep those students here with their peers, with the community that they know, and the teachers that know them, and know their parents and brothers and sisters, then we're doing a big favor for them. And they remain with our talented and hardworking staff here. They could, our staff could, they overturn boulders to help these kids. I've seen teachers tear up and just want kids back and want to give them the help that they need. But, your typical general education instructor is not necessarily suited for a student with severe emotional supports or severe cognitive disabilities. And how do we adapt that curriculum? That's what a person like this would do. How does it help the teachers? Again, I said, it goes hand in hand. When you're helping the students, you're helping the teachers. But really be able to have that person here at the high school and at the elementary to provide that itinerant support. You know, if there is a student within a classroom that is starting to establish these behaviors that teacher is trained and used to working with, can they provide that support, those observations, those tools, the behavior programs and plans necessary that can curb that issue before it becomes to a point where we have to start looking at placing a student outside, and sometimes even having to move a student into the special education arena. Not that we don't want to have kids there, because we're going to provide the support as much as necessary. However, I think we find that most students are given the intervention early and fast and intensive. They don't need it because they were able to. The teachers and the professionals working with them are able to get them back on track. How will it help the districts? For one of the biggest things I tell my students even that the big thing under IDEA is faith in the least restrictive environment. There's a free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. The least restrictive environment always begins in the general education classroom. Having those supports here at both buildings will help us maintain that, because those are numbers that we have to report to the state every year, and then it's reported to the federal government. It's not about money, it's not about finances, but they do track it, and we do want to try to keep our kids here. Now, while the cost of sending our students out to provide are supposed to be on dollar signs, I mentioned that, like leaving the community that they care about, that cares about them. Not that the schools are going to, they're not doing a good job, but they don't know them. They don't know the families. They come to know them after spending a lot of time there. But I don't know about you, if we can keep our kids here, I want to keep our kids here. However, an IU placement on average runs anywhere between about $25,000 to $30,000, and that's not including the transportation cost. If you take a look on that next page here, these are students and names, schools they're at have been completely removed. So all you see here is it says student 1, student 2, that's it. Based on conversations that I work with the staffs, I have been rated that of students who are getting intensive programming that we couldn't look at getting back because that's the programming that they need and that's where they need to be. Some of the students that are in yellow, those are undetermined. I'm still waiting for information, but those in the green are students that right now we can probably get back if we have the right supports. And that means they're back with our teachers, with their peers, and we're providing those supports necessary. Below, I have projections, and these are students who are not in the calculations that are above. These are students that we are currently working with. Our teachers are really working hard to try to help these students maintain the progress in the general education curriculum. This time away and these changes over this past year, and we've been lucky enough to be back here face to face, and I can't tell you how happy our kids were to be there, but and our teachers were too, my goodness. But this is put all kids behind, let alone the students with special needs or developing special needs. And these are students on the bottom part that we're working with now that have the potential. But right now there's 2 of them that I have kind of factored in there that have the highest potential. But those would be students that would only need itinerant services and would not have to leave our school. So that concludes my piece. I think I went a little bit over. I apologize. I get kind of passionate about that stuff. But does anybody have any questions? Well, you can certainly reach out at any time, email or anything. But if you do, please don't hesitate. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to jump in with a question here, and hopefully, Tim, you can hear me.
I can hear you.
One of the concerns that I have had, and that we have talked about in the past with the board is that, we made this move to bring in Jamie Simpson to help with you know, in terms of making sure that our regular ed teachers, classroom teachers have enough support so that they are not as overwhelmed as they were at one point with as many of our special needs kids that had IEPs. Because while I understand and I'm fully supportive of those kids that need IEPs, it can be absolutely overwhelming, I think, to some of our teachers because there are so many pieces that are involved to that. So I'm concerned when we talk about putting more kids back into our general classrooms that are going to start to overwhelm our teachers again. So I want you to tell me, how is this going to, putting these kids back in the regular classroom, adding these other IEPs onto the teachers, like how is this going to help that situation if we agree to put this position into play?
No, it's a good question. What I would say is Jamie Simpson's position has been a tremendous help to the staff. And he is working, you know, last year he got, I don't know what the word I want to use, but kind of bogged down with behavior concerns and issues. This year, he's been doing a yeoman's job of, you know, really addressing the overwhelming delay that all of our students are showing, not just students in AC Valley, but across the country. You know, we were told, which is accurate, when students came back, they were only going to be having about, and correct me if I'm wrong, principals, Dr. McKinnon, it was about 70% of their ELA instruction coming into the new year, and only about 50% of what they needed to know and master in math to move on to the next level. So you can imagine the burden that has kind of fallen as the teachers try to juggle the grade level curriculum and these additional concerns. What I would say as far as additional supports, I think what, you know, and I'm going to go back to the beginning piece, the majority of these students that we are looking at supporting are already going to, like our students here at the elementary school. Our students here at the elementary school that are in, you know, the life skill support classroom, they're only in there for, you know, the math, reading, the ELA, and the mathematics, those two critical points. For the rest of the time, they're going to our teachers for specials, for classes, for recess. So they're already there. This is more the academic piece. As far as the students we're talking about for the social emotional itinerant support, again, these are students that are already here. I would not, and I'm only one person on the IEP team, but looking at students who are in those emotional support programs that are out of the district, we would only be looking at bringing, you know, students back who that full IEP team and behavioral specialists are ready for and have plans in place. Now, this person, what they would be able to do is not just support, you know, teachers here at the elementary, but that's one place Jamie can't go because he doesn't have the time, is up to the high school. And the high school has needs to, you know, Dr. Jordan, I'm sure can speak to those specifically, but there are needs up there at the high school that that person would be able to meet as well, in order to provide those additional supports that would actually help the teachers as far as modifications they can make to their classroom to support those behaviors, to support any emotional or social stress that they have, or, you know, promote and support, you know, academic growth in those classrooms by providing that additional support and something that they specialize in. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does help to answer my question. And maybe you said this, Tim, and I might not have quite heard it. Like if we were going to say, all right, we're going to put this in place right now, we're going to bring some of these kids back from these classrooms, to, you know, for a myriad of reasons, not just financial, because if we're going to do it strictly for financial, then that's not the right.
No, it's not. I agree.
But what does that number look like? How many kids are we talking about bringing back into AC Valley?
Right now, as far as, and anybody here who's looking at it, and I'm sure you'll see it too, it says a strong potential to return. We were looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students, you know, that are definitely very strong potential that need just itinerant supports for academics. And again, I agree with you 100%. The cost factor is the last on my list, but it is a factor. You know, as an educator, my first thing is meeting the needs of our students here. And you know, I see AC Valley and I see these students as my students, just like anybody else here. So I hope all of you know that. I mean, I care very deeply about them. But then there's, you know, just even at the high school level for next year, there would be two that we could help prevent from going that direction. Right now, they're kind of hanging on. They just need those additional supports. So just alone there, you're looking at 7 to, being generous, 7 to 8 that would we be able to keep with us.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have a question, Tim. So educate me a little bit here.
Sure.
If something like this were to come to fruition and we bring these kids back, does that also come with additional support staff, like aides or, you know, additional personnel that we would then need to hire to support those students in this environment?
I'm predicting the future there. So I would say that the students that I'm looking at here on this list do not require like an additional one-on-one aid to be with them. What they require is literally an itinerant support from an individual who's trained there. So, for example, you know, even at the high school level here at the elementary school, we may need I don't know that we want, you know, depending on the age of student walking from one class to another class by themselves. For some of them, we would need an aid to transport them, but they will not stay with them. That individual will be working one-on-one or in a small group with them. And none of these students have that level of support that would require this one-on-one aid to be with them at all times.
That's a good question. We do have students that are in the IU classrooms who do have additional aid with them right now, but the ones that Tim are referencing do not. So you're right on track.
So Tim, can you, under the category, is that the classification of the special education need they have?
Yeah, so ASD would be autism spectrum disorder. ED, you know, they changed ID, I mean MR to ID. I really wish they changed ED. Because when you hear ED is emotional disturbance, when you hear disturbance, immediately you go to this like completely negative piece. But a student with an emotional disturbance can be a student with like crippling anxiety. So it's not necessarily, but I think traditionally you think of a student who just misbehaves all the time, and that's not the case. You know, look at each student individually and see what's going on. MDS is a multiple disability. Typically, that is typically it's an intellectual disability paired with usually some sort of orthopedic impairment, neurological disorder that needs a ton of intensive intervention that we don't have the resources for. The SLD, that's a specific learning disability. ID is the intellectual disability. And that's what we have out there. And then the placement, that's like AS is autistic support, ES is emotional support, MD is multiple disability supports, and LSS is life skills supports.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions or concerns?
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will move, I guess, do we have any board concerns? Not seeing any, we will move on to the consent agenda. Or are there any items on the consent agenda you would want pulled to vote on separately? Okay, so we're good with what's in the consent agenda? All right, so would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody need to abstain? Okay, motion carries. We passed the consent agenda. We'll move on to finance and purchase. Mark's not here. Let's see, who else is on the finance committee we can pick on tonight? All right, Megan, would you do that for us?
Sure.
I'm gonna group everything together, so, section A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. Motion to approve.
First and seconded. Any discussion? Do we want to have Grant give us his report before we actually do the final voting?
All right, can everybody hear me well? All right, just trying to make sure. All right, let's go ahead and just look at the meal certified site report that I provided you. And I'm just going to lump this all together. District-wide, we were up 4,280 meals over last year. We received almost 42,000 in federal reimbursement and almost 1,700 state reimbursement. And our student participation rate was 56%. Connected to that report is the menu item sales detail where I pull these items from. And then I also provided the SSO claim and reimbursement summary form for you so you can see where those dollars came in as well. And then I attached March menu. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Grant, is that percentage keeping up where we need to be for
Yes,
the continuation of the free meals?
correct. So free meals actually will be extended through September.
Right.
I saw notification for that. So yes, we're right on target. We're actually above, because this percentage rate is above where we were when we were providing free, reduced, and full paid meals. So we're very much ahead of that over last year. All right.
Any questions for Grant? Okay, so we've had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Anybody need to abstain? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We need to thank Grant
Thank
for
you, Graham,
Yes,
his great work that he has done while he's been here.
for everything.
Yes.
Okay, letter I, consideration to accept the letter or agreement from Mark J. Kubar dated March 1st, 2021 for legal services with the district 2021-2022 school year as attached.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion carried.
J, consideration to approve the proposal from Computer Support and Associates Incorporated in the amount of $30,455.02 for equipment, switch expansion module, power supply, and warranty as attached. Rates of it.
Okay, any discussion? So we have what, a 70% rate, I believe?
Yes.
So in other words, we're getting $100,000 worth of equipment for $30,000. So it's a pretty good deal. Jan, are you still on? No.
I'm still here.
Okay, we couldn't hear you. Tammy couldn't hear you, so we wanted to make sure you were still there.
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so any more discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, consideration to approve the district-wide parking lot project. Bid specifications for double seal tar and chipping of the school's driveway and parking lots as attached.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
L, consideration to approve beginning the bidding process for repairs to the elementary school elevator control panels. Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
M, consideration to approve beginning the bidding process for repairs to the junior senior high school cafeteria floor replacement. So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
And consideration to approve the request from the Foxford Free Library asking for a donation in the amount of $600 as attached. So moved. Second.
Discussion? I think we usually do this every year,
Yeah,
this amount.
600.
For quite a while, we've been doing that. so.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, we're gonna move on to personnel. Jameen, would you like to do personnel?
Sure. Consideration, letter A, consideration to accept the letter of intent to retire at the end of the 2021 school year from Miss Felicia Texter, dated February 17th, 2021, as attached. Miss Texter has been employed with the district since August of 1983. So moved. Second.
Any discussion? We can't keep her here, unfortunately. I understand, sure, wanting to retire. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Is that an oppose or an in favor?
In favor.
Okay. Any, and then need to abstain? Okay, motion carries.
Item B, consideration to accept the letter of resignation from Grant Grusha, Director of Food Services and Child Nutrition, dated February 16th, 2021, as attached. Mr. Grusha's last day with the district will be Friday, April 16th, 2021. So moved. Second.
Okay, discussion?
That's another one we can't say.
We want to say no?
We want to say no?
Thank you very much.
We want to say no. Unfortunately, I think he would fight us if we do, so. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Even though we all want to? Anybody need to abstain? Motion carries.
Item C, consideration to approve the request from Bob Bowser to remain a volunteer with the varsity football team for the 2021-2022 school year as attached. So moved. Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Item D, consideration to approve the request from Bryn Chalmers to be a volunteer upon receipt of all appropriate documentation with the varsity football team for the 2021-2022 school year as attached. So moved.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Item E, consideration to approve the request from Anthony McGarvey to be a volunteer upon receipt of all appropriate documentation with the varsity boys baseball team for the 2020-2021 school year as attached. So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
I just had a question.
Sure.
How many, and I apologize, I meant to look this up, can Tammy, do you happen to know how many volunteers that then gives us for the baseball team? Because I feel like we're getting to have quite a few.
I would have to go out to my desk and look. Do you want me to go look?
Does anybody happen to remember? It's like, I just worry about, because the number was like 11 or 12 students, so how many volunteers do we need?
I think the number's 19 now, isn't it?
Yeah, 17.
17.
Oh, it is now? Okay, because when I looked at it, when Scott sent it out the first time, it was only 11 or 12.
And one of those volunteers moved into a paid assistant position.
So it's Lane, is Lane still doing it? I think so. And then it'd be Tony.
Yeah, my wife will move into that same position.
And then,
Okay.
the physical therapist, isn't he a volunteer? Mike?
Yeah.
Yes, Mike Woodward, okay.
Is he an official volunteer?
Yeah, so we approved it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we approved him, so that's 2 or 3? Okay. 3, we think, Jen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so that was for opposed, Jen?
Correct.
Okay. Anybody need to abstain? Okay, motion carries.
Item F,
consideration to approve hiring Tim Quayle as a part-time, 3-hour per day, light duty custodian at the elementary building upon receipt of all appropriate documentation contingent upon a 16-workday probationary period at an hourly rate of $14.50. Upon completion of the 60-workday period, the hourly rate will be $15.50. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Item G, consideration to approve hiring Hannah Farrington as a part-time, 3-hour per day, light duty custodian at the high school building upon receipt of all appropriate documentation contingent upon a 60-workday probationary period at an hourly rate of $14.50. Upon completion of the 60-workday period, the hourly rate will be $15.50. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And it keeps going. Item H, consideration to approve hiring Stacy Redding as food service director at 200 days per year upon receipt of all appropriate documentation at a prorated salary of $40,000. So moved. Second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Item I, consideration to approve the request from Mark Milford, Director of Buildings and Grounds, to hire 6 AC Valley students for summer work. So moved. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item J, consideration to approve to hire Heidi Hubbis at an hourly wage of $10 per hour to perform summer 2021 mowing services for the district. So moved. Discussion. I'm just curious, does she work in the maintenance department otherwise?
Part-time,
Okay.
she only works during the school year.
Oh, okay.
She's our 9-month position.
9-month position, okay. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item K, consideration to approve the itinerant inclusion support / intervention specialist K through 12 job description as attached. So moved. Okay, so let me clarify. This is just to approve the description of the position. This is not, that we're putting it out there for applications or approving it. We're just looking at the description right now.
And that's correct too, and this may fall underneath the ESSER stimulus package as well, as far as targeting learning loss. We could look at it potentially as a 1-year grant funded position to see if it supports our learning environment as well. That could be a different shift outside of using local money, since we are trying to reduce that deficit. But Kelly is 100% correct. It doesn't mean we're filling the position, but if we can improve the job description, then that could open up some opportunities for the district.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, anybody with abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Item L, consideration to approve the elementary school mathematics coach job description as attached. So moved. Again, this is the same thing. We're just approving the description. We're not saying we're hiring or we're going to create the position. Any discussion? And this one, we were talking about it being just a grant funded position.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Item M, consideration to approve the request from Eric Rothen to be a volunteer nurse and accompany the seniors on their senior class trip as attached. So moved. Any discussion? we'll get to the trip after a while here, but if we approve the trip, he's asking to go as the nurse, so. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Jameen. We gave you the long one tonight. Okay, instructional services. Lena, do you want to do that?
Yeah, elementary report.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to start by highlighting a few activities that we've had at the elementary since our last meeting. For the week of March 3rd to March 5th, the elementary building did celebrate Read Across America Week. It was a very scaled down celebration this year because of the COVID restrictions. But we did host a Spirit Week for the kids to participate in each day. And then teachers by individual classroom chose from some activities that were provided to them or things that they found on their own to help the kids celebrate a love of reading throughout the days of that week. And just a reminder, we are participating in Give Club's Spirit Week this week called Happy Week, which begins tomorrow with Comfy Cozy Day. Our Positive Behavior Response Program awarded the February monthly winner. Just this past week, they got their award. That winning classroom was Miss Mapes' third grade room, and they received an ice cream sundae party. And many thanks to Grant Grasha for helping make that happen for us. And all of these events are highlighted on our Facebook, which is Allegheny Clarion Valley School District News. So if you're not following that, go out and follow it, and you'll see all kinds of pictures of the activities that we do. Some instructional items, and this one is also on Facebook. Our STEM team organized an engineering week about 2 weeks ago, and this was supported by our individual classroom teachers as well. Our STEM team works to promote critical thinking in all content areas. It's not just a science and math thing. And each of the grade levels had a challenge that they were to tackle given certain materials. So some of the teachers submitted pictures, and we highlighted those on Facebook so you could see what was going on with our STEM and engineering week. We've begun looking ahead to next year with many of the teachers. I've had some grade level meetings to talk about some of the concerns that we want to address. First grade, we met with me much earlier, the whole first grade team this year when we first came back from our shutdown, to look at rescheduling their day to address some of the interventions they needed to do. And they're looking at continuing to provide that current level of intervention next year due to the success they've had with it this year, which I'm going to talk a little bit about in Bill's report as well. And we've discussed that we need to have some grade level meetings by the end of the year to communicate upward where the kids are, what skills they might be lacking that they traditionally would have, say moving from first to second or second to third, because those grade levels are going to need that information to know where they need to scale back to start the next year. Hopefully we have made some gains with some of the interventions we've done. I met with the grades 4, 5, and 6 to work on schedules that will feature varying levels of departmentalization by grade. Each grade is working out the schedule that best fits their needs to address some of the things that they are seeing at their grade levels. One of the things that has been very helpful has been our after school program. That is continuing to run through March 25th, every Monday through Thursday. At the elementary level, I have 5 teachers, Mrs. Black, Mrs. Harold, Mrs. Tracy Hedrick, Ms. McCord, and Ms. Mapes, who have been fantastic at supporting that program. We have about a dozen students that stay regularly and have been dedicated to getting caught up and improving their skills. Classroom teachers provide the work to the tutors that stay if students need catching up, and then they also use their DIBELS and iReady scores to address skill deficits that need to be addressed in that after-school program. And then a community outreach that happened this past weekend, which is also highlighted on our Facebook. On Saturday, March 13th, the Farm to Families USDA food distribution program was brought to our back parking lot here at the elementary. Julie Myers, our PTO president, reached out to me early last week or the end of the week before that and said that through her church, which was Hope Rising Church in Clarion, they bring this truckload of pallets of food in, and then they look for community partners to distribute the food to communities. So we decided to take that on and see how it would go here at AC Valley. Saturday started with pickup in Clarion at 8:30 in the morning, and I want to give many thanks to my husband Dave Sherman and Pat Lowry and Jim Marin for their trucks and trailers that went up to pick up the food that we needed to distribute down here. Our distribution was to be from 10 to noon, and I believe we arrived on campus about 9:30 in the morning, and we had a line of cars waiting for us. Approximately 250 boxes were distributed throughout the morning. And it could not have happened without our volunteers, and I want to make sure I acknowledge them. Megan Batchline, Jackie Caldwell, Melinda Farrington, Stacy Fox, Jennifer Jordan, Kirsty Mapes, Tracy Quayle, Linda Miller, Dave Sherman, Emmy Faust, Michelle Eiler, Rose Dittman, Christy Mapes, Tim Quayle, and Pat Lowry were all there the entire morning for the distribution of the food as well. I did speak with Julie, and it's something that they're looking to do again at their church. So I told her that, you know, based on the success, we would definitely be happy to partner up with them again, and get that food out to our community. There were no income guidelines. It was available to anyone, and the food was all fresh food, like fresh meats, produce, cheeses, milk. So it was a great program, and I thank Julie for making us aware of bringing that program here.
Did everything get handed out?
All 250 boxes. We only had one box that had a leak. And we opened that up, and one of the volunteers, it wasn't even really leaking, it was just leaking around the seal, so they took that box, and another one said that their family could use the box without the milk in it, so we were able to get rid of all of it. So, yeah, it was a wonderful program. And that's all I have for tonight.
Secondary report, Dr. Gordon.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start out just mention that the state of Pennsylvania has eliminated or has not eliminated state mandated testing this year. I know a lot of folks were hoping that because of COVID-19 and the delays in education this year that they would not do that testing this year, but that's not going to happen. It will take place as scheduled. In fact, in a recent news release, the Department of Education has extended test sessions and allows for testing into the fall, but requires that all testing be done. I want to announce publicly that I think that this is ridiculous, that they would think that we would test in the fall for the school year this year. And it just confuses students and educators even more as to why we even do this testing. PSSAs are slated to begin at the high school and at the elementary in grades 3 through 8 on April 19th. The end of the third marking period will be next week. This also means that we will be ending our after-school program at the high school. I would like to personally thank the teachers that participated regularly at the high school. Mrs. Stover, Mrs. Bauman, Ms. Atwood, Ms. Runyon, Mrs. Lowry, Mrs. Lowe, Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Farrington, and Mrs. Roth. They did a wonderful job. We've had a number of successes and a few struggles. We've had numerous students that completed well over 100 assignments that were missed because of the remote learning. To me, this just emphasizes the point that it wasn't simply about students not wanting to do the work. Students wanted to do the work, but they weren't in an environment that was supportive or able to get them to the point where they could do this work. The team at the high school would like to thank the board as well for allowing us to do this and to support these students in this after-school program. Since I've been a high school principal at the high school, we've had a number of high-level classes that we've added, AP classes included. And this is for students that are seeking college credits. We have at times ignored students that maybe aren't going to go to college. Maybe they're going to a tech school or a trade school or maybe just competitive employment. I'm currently working with Ms. Runyon on an environmental science class that will be geared more toward those students that need an extra science credit but aren't wanting to take an AP class. I hope within the next couple of weeks to be able to finish that curriculum and bring that in here so that you can take a look at that and approve that. We're hoping to possibly get it on the schedule for next year for those students to take that. Our PBIS team was recognized for having fidelity of implementation in our PBIS program for school year 2019-20. We will actually be filling out the paperwork to get recognized for this year as well, but that won't happen until July. This is important because it opens up additional opportunities for grant monies and for ongoing support for the development of our program. PBIS has been a real good success at the high school, and I know it's helped the elementary as well. Hopefully when COVID life is over, we can get back to really drilling down and giving kids the opportunity to show us what they can do. Winter sports has closed out. Both our varsity basketball teams participated in districts and fought very hard, but came away with losses and are now out of the playoffs. Coaches did a really nice job this year, and those students worked very hard despite all of the challenges of COVID-19 life. Both myself and Dr. DeTullio want to thank the students, the parents, the coaches, and the public for supporting us and helping us through all these difficult issues that we've had this year. Spring sports will start with competitions here in April, and they've already started with practices. The last piece that I have for the secondary updates actually ties into what the elementary is doing also. At your seat there, I put a document that has 3 pages on it. It has at the top there, I'm ready in the right-hand corner, and diagnostic results in the left-hand corner. There have been a lot of questions that have been passed, I know, to you as board members, to myself as the principal, and to some of the teachers as to what in the world we're doing with this program. Why are we testing kids more and more and more? Myself and Mrs. Sherman want to make sure that people understand that this assessment, this program that we use as an assessment, is a tool that we need at the high school and at the elementary. If you look there, and I'm going to go through the 3 pages just very briefly to describe the kind of reports that we can get from this. So it says up there, diagnostic results. And this hopefully brings to your mind what it's like when you go to the doctor and the doctor diagnoses, your illness. Just like the doctor, we can diagnose exactly what students need to be able to bring them to grade level. The very first page that you have there, it has a little triangle there. And you can see tier 1, tier 2, and then at risk for tier 3, and it's broken down into percentages. This is very similar to the triangle that we use for PBIS. The perfect triangle would have 80% in the green, 15% in the yellow, and 5% in the red. This is just a picture of the high school, and as you can see from that triangle, we do have a lot of work to do. If you turn to the second page, and that's grades 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you turn to the second page, it's very similar, but it's just the 7th grade. So if you look there, they don't give you a triangle this time, they kind of break it down into a pie chart there. But you can see down below listed are a number of the students. And what we look for whenever we get a report like this is, number 1, we look at the overall. So how many students are on or above grade level? And secondly, we look at how many students are 1 grade level below. And then finally, we look at students that are 2 or more grade levels below. Down below the circle there, the pie chart, you also see grade 7, late 7th, mid 7th. This is a report on individual students and where they stand as far as their reading skills. Up in the right-hand corner, placement by domain, you can see there the specific things when it comes to English language arts, where students are successful and where they have a few struggles. Of course, phonological awareness, that's something that's generally not taught past the 4th or 5th grade, so we would assume that that should all be green, and it is, so that's a good sign. And you get down to vocabulary comprehension, we have a few more challenges there. Finally, the third page, we started with the whole high school, we drilled down to 7th grade. This is a specific student. And of course, I whited out the personal information, but it shows you right there where this student stands as far as their grade level goes. This particular student is performing in English and language arts at grade 9 right now. So this obviously is an excellent report. What this also measures is how much growth in a single year students are getting. And you can see with that little picture right in the middle, the green line is exactly the 7th grade level that we would expect them to be at. This student, of course, is already performing above the 7th grade level. But the very top of that blue rectangle there is where we would expect that student to be after 1 year's growth. We expect every single student coming into school to be able to grow at least 1 year. And in fact, when you think about those kids that are below grade level, we need them to be able to grow multiple years to try to get them caught up to where they should be. So this gives you an idea of what iReady does. And this is just the diagnostic part of it. There's also a whole database of strategies that the teacher can use, and they can drill down into small groups or even individually for students that are struggling in a specific area and give them opportunities to work in those areas that they're weak. And this is why this iReady program is so beneficial for the high school and for the elementary teachers. And it helps me as an administrator so that I have an idea of how kids are performing, how teachers are helping those students to perform, and exactly where we're going with our curriculum. If you have any questions about that, I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Sherman for just a minute, and she wants to mention kind of how she uses the information from this as well. And to give you an example of what we see testing once in the fall, once here in the spring, and then we have one more testing. Mrs. Sherman?
So the 3 pages that Bill showed you basically look the same grade to grade, whether you're at kindergarten or 12th grade. You get the pie chart, you can drill down to grade level, and you can drill down to student. The chart that I gave you that just has a bunch of numbers with dates at the top of the column, that's an example of how we use this data at the elementary school. That is a particular group of students. So obviously, I've whitened their names out so that you can't see the students. But they were put together in an intervention group because they had some similar skill deficit needs. And that first column, the February 2nd column, is where they were the day that intervention group started. And you can see in just 3 weeks what their base score went from and where it went to in just those 3 weeks of interventions. They're obviously still using those intervention groups, and there's 2 more sets of data since that last one. But when I met with them, that was the data that they showed me about that particular group to show me the progress they were making. So that's just an example of the data in action and how we've used it to support students.
Do you think the students, when you give them the test, are most of them doing it seriously?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I spoke with our iReady representative. Bill and I were both in that meeting, and they said one of the things that was impressive to them on their end was students get a red flag if they rush through it, because it should take a certain amount of time. And I don't remember if Bill's building, but in my building, I think there were only 4 red flags, K to 6, in the mid-year diagnostic,
I would say at the high school, that's probably one of the biggest barriers to being able to use this appropriately. And I implore every educator and the public, the parents, to encourage your student to take this seriously. Because if a student just blows off the test and gets an intentionally low score, that provides us with no information. Teachers are going to be giving them work that, or going over things that they already know. But if they try their hardest and they're motivated to actually prove what they know, and we can use that information and we can grow them. So that is an issue at the high school. There are, a percentage of students that they kind of just blow it off and they don't realize that it's absolutely essential for us as educators so that we can help them get better and more skilled at what they need to do.
Yeah, and that piece is certainly not perfect at the elementary either, but the teachers are doing a really great job of trying to motivate the kids with different kinds of rewards and monitoring them to make sure that they take their time.
Are the teachers able to analyze this data at the grade level, or do they do it independently?
They can do it either way, actually, because in the database, it can have their class just individually, or it can have the entire 7th grade. So for instance, at the high school, we have some, the special education teachers, they have students in their class that typically don't go with the rest of the kids in the math or ELA. And so they can check out their scores and then they can match it against the building scores, or even iReady provides information on national norms as well.
And this does math as well, right?
Math and ELA, yes.
Yeah, and at the elementary, that's our only measure for math. We do have goodness for the ELA as well.
Any other questions for us regarding iReady? Okay, thank you very much. That concludes my report as well.
Thank you.
Federal program, any?
On federal programs, most of our time right now is being spent on gathering as much information on the federal ESSER grants that the school district is going to receive and how we can spend that money. PASCO is offering a webinar on March 22nd that David, Angie, and I will be attending. Carrie and I will be closing out the Title I delinquent grant tomorrow. All the expenditures have been paid out for the detention center, so now we can close it. And that is all my reporting.
Thank you, Lena. I'll start with letting the school board and community know that we've been working with the governor's office, Pennsylvania Department of Health, and the local IU to distribute vaccines to staff members here at AC Valley. The clinics worked with 28 intermediate units across the state. The governor reserved 94,600 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine for teachers and staff members at school districts. The first shots were given to elementary school teachers and teachers who had worked with students with disabilities K through 12, and then the second phase were all K through 12 staff members who have direct contact. We were able to get everybody up to the IU who signed up for it on March 13th, 14th, and 15th. And then we have another round for substitute teachers and other staff associated with them at the end of March. So it's been a good process, and it's good that as staff members would like to get a vaccine, they have an opportunity to do so. Moving on down through, as many of you are aware, President Biden has signed the American Rescue Plan. That's a $1.9 trillion American economy relief package. It's increasing the role of the federal government and state and local governments, as well as education. So there's a line item down there to help school districts. In Pennsylvania, we're estimated to receive 13.4 billion of the 1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package. 7.3 billion of that money goes to state government, 6.1 billion goes to counties, municipalities, and school districts. We're not sure yet what money will be coming to AC Valley, but as soon as we're aware of it, we'll let you know. Of that money, it seems like $123 billion will be distributed through K through 12 school districts. Part of the legislative news, there is House Bill 272, the bipartisan bill to target charter school reform. There's a lot of momentum in Harrisburg for this. It is working more in partnership with some of the charter schools to be able to provide an education that's affordable. Also on March 22nd, PSBA has a spring virtual advocacy day that I do encourage all board members to sign up for and participate in. We'll be talking about charter school reform, change in funding, budgets and mandate relief, and then a budget structure. So if you have time on the 22nd, please go to PSBA and sign up for that. In Harrisburg, both the House and Senate committees are in session this week. The Appropriations Committee heard from the Independent Fiscal Office on the state of the jobs, and the IFO estimated that there are 470,000 job losses due to the pandemic. They are concerned about that moving forward, but are optimistic with job growth. Just up and coming dates for you to be aware of, focused in on the proposed budget. On March 18th, the Department of Education meeting. March 22nd, the Department of Community and Economic Development meeting. And then on April 22nd, the Department of Health Budget Secretary and the Governor's Office will meet to take a deeper look into that budget. And Lena, that concludes my report for March.
School police report.
We did 38 perimeter checks. Inside checks 38, school lunch. That's a long lunch period. It's roughly 2 hours long. We did 38 of those. Parking lot checks 3, arrival details 38, dismissal details 37. Assist administration, we did 26 assists. Training, we had, we both completed the in-service training which is required by the state. Camera checks, that I just put 38 down, but we're in, anytime we're in the office, we're checking the cameras. And we had one emergency medical situation down here at the elementary, and we did 152.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Letter E, consideration to approve the revised 2020-2021 calendar with the graduation date set, of Sunday, May 30th, 2021, as attached. So moved.
Got a second? We have to,
Second.
thank you. All right, now discussion.
I thought it was Wednesday.
Well, let me clarify. After our last board meeting, I went back and made the changes and put it in front of the board, and then we started an email chain around. So I just took that last discussion to come up with that Sunday because it was the intent at that time, which it may change, to have graduations on Sunday moving forward. So that's kind of where that date was at.
Now, we can vote this down and then make another motion for a different date, but the motion at this time has been seconded is, so what, we need discussion. What, I think we had brought up the fact that for just this year, it might be better to have it the Wednesday.
Yes, so just for anyone who's not aware, I was approached by a senior parent that they had already put a deposit down for a vacation rental. You know, they were leaving on the 29th, which was the day after graduation. They've already paid for half of their house. They've made rental car arrangements. Everything's done for their whole entire family. In lieu of graduation party, that was their graduation party. So, you know, we originally decided to move it for one particular student who we feel may be going to the state track meet. I certainly don't want to move it to a different date that's going to impact another family. So, you know, I feel that the best thing for us to do is move it earlier in the week where there are no conflicts for other people who may have plans for the holiday weekend. And then I know we've done that before. Kids, we just hold diplomas, is that right, Dr. Jordan, until they complete their last day of school.
So your recommendation is to look at that Wednesday, what date is that?
That is the 26th.
The 26th. And I think Mr. Jordan let us know that it doesn't appear there will be any, but we have no control of that, whether there's playoff games, PIAA.
No.
So we could end up having another conflict, but that's unknown right now. We can't. But at that point, once we get close enough that we know when there might be a playoff game, we're not gonna have time to do any changes at that point. So what we vote tonight, I think is gonna have to stay.
I agree.
I agree with Ellie. Whatever we decide tonight is it. Like, people are trying to plan for getting announcements and, you know, make sure that their, graduation parties are not conflicting with it. So I think whatever we do tonight is that's the end of the line. Like, we're done.
Right.
Because we talked the Sunday, the 23rd was too soon.
Right.
It's too soon.
So if any other conflicts arise, we're just gonna have to work around it at this point, but we're doing our best that we can, so. Okay, so we had a motion to make it on May 30th Sunday. We had a second, so if you don't want it to be Sunday, then you need to vote down this motion, okay? So all in favor? All opposed? Aye. Anybody need to abstain? Okay, so the motion was voted down. Now, do we have a second motion?
So I make a motion that we schedule graduation for Wednesday, May 26th.
Okay.
2021.
Jen, did you have a comment too?
She seconded.
No, I just seconded it.
Okay, all right. So all in favor of the new motion to have graduation on Wednesday, the 26th? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Anybody need to abstain? Okay, motion carries. So we need to get that out as soon as we can to the public and
We'll work on it tomorrow.
let them know this time it will not change. That's it. We're not changing it again. And that brings us to,
Matter of fact, consideration to approve the revised 2021-2022 district calendar as attached. So moved.
Second.
okay, so clarification on this calendar, David, we're making sure that graduation is now going to be Sunday.
Yes, Sunday, May 29th. And I did take that Monday, January 3rd. I have that as a vacation day. And I moved the last student day from Thursday, May 26th to Friday, May 27th. So we've got 180 days in, and we have a graduation date set for that Sunday following the last student day on Friday.
And did anybody look, is that Memorial Day weekend?
Yes.
Okay,
That is Memorial Day weekend.
According to what he has on here, yeah.
so it's late again next year. So, I mean, I don't know how else we can get around it. I mean, unless we want to start later and end school later.
Or we just have graduation on Wednesday.
Well, I think if parents know that's going to be graduation, they're less likely to schedule vacations or trips, and it's not interfering with the state track meet. You know, they'll be back by that Sunday. So I think we're okay, and then hopefully the following year, Memorial Day is
It'll move up again.
normal.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, so all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Anybody need to abstain? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so we're gonna move on to policy. Corey, would you like to do policy?
Sure. All right, letter A, consideration to approve, actually, I'm gonna put A, B, and C together, they're all seconds. Consideration to approve the second reading of policy number 332, working periods as attached, policy 309.1, telework as attached, and policy 803, school calendar as attached. So
Okay, discussion? I just have one thing that I noticed, and I don't know if I guess I didn't catch it with the first reading. On the telework, do we need to put in there that they have to wear the same dress code as they would in a regular workday?
I think that's addressed under working period.
It's number 9 on page, I guess there's no page. Page 2 of 3. I can understand the working hours as the regular workday, but do we need to worry about the same dress code? I mean, I don't think you're gonna go check, are you, if they're in their pajamas?
I look really nice in Zoom meetings, but don't watch me walk away in my sweatpants.
There you go. I mean, what do the rest of you think? Do we need to have that in there?
I don't think so.
Well, I kind of thought we should.
We should?
I thought we should. Make sure that nothing inappropriate on a shirt or anything. like
Right, but
that.
I mean, why can't they wear jeans at home or?
It kind of, it's casual professional, but we just don't want somebody in their pajamas teaching, I guess, or maybe during a conference or whatever it may be. Just my thought, but I'll follow whatever direction, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what do the rest of you folks think? I just didn't want to make it sound like we're gonna make them wear ties and suits or shirts and ties at home if they're home doing instruction. Might be going a little overboard, but
Can we just put appropriate?
yeah, can we just say must dress appropriately and,
Did you have casual? Did you have that in there, the casual professional?
No, it's just a general language of the same dress code and working hours as a regular day.
Oh, okay, it's awesome. So you're saying, Kelly, you think it should not be quite the same dress code as if they were in person?
well, I mean, that's what I'm thinking. If they're at home working, I don't think we need to say we expect them to be in dress clothes. I understand we don't want them to wear T-shirts that's, that might have inappropriate information, which I don't think they would, but
Did we make kids adhere to the dress code? I know my kids got in trouble for it on a Zoom meeting, so if we're making the kids adhere to the dress code when they're at home,
right, we're expecting them not to be in their pajamas, but
right?
I think there's a difference in dress code between the professional, the teachers, and the students as far as, we have to have a tie and shirt on, do they have to have dress pants on? And
Say whatever's appropriate for their school day.
The other question about it becomes, how is it enforceable?
exactly,
Do you put a rule in place that you can't enforce?
right. I mean, I think it just should say dress appropriately.
I don't see why we should change.
Yeah, I would say if it's a casual, it's fine. I mean, let's face it. All of us that have been working from home, I don't wear dress pants ever. I have jeans or sweatpants on and nobody knows the difference. So, I don't have a problem with it.
Any thoughts?
I agree with Megan, leave it as it is.
Okay.
I mean, we're not gonna have any issues. I don't think they went over this year doing it, so.
Okay, so you want to leave it as it is? Okay, we'll leave it as it is.
All right, letter D.
Wait a minute, we have to vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, abstentions? All right, now you can move on, Corey.
All right, letter D. Consideration to approve the first reading of policy number 150, Title I, comparability of services as attached. So moved.
Discussion? Questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion carries.
All right, letter E, consideration to approve the first reading of policy number 137.1, extracurricular participation by home education students as attached. So moved.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Who haven't I talked to? Diane, you want to do the facilities?
Yes, Mark, do we have a maintenance report?
First of all, I want to thank Grant. It's been great to work with Grant over the last couple of years. He's done a great job in the kitchen. I think the kitchen morale is the best it's been in a long time. So, thank you, Grant. Stacy has some big shoes to fill. Couple of things we've done over the last month is, we've got a couple of grants at the elementary school that needed staked out. A few faucets, toilets needed repaired. Elementary air compressor that needed repaired. We had a few lights at the high school that needed fixed. And since the weather's got nice the last couple of weeks, we had our monthly fire drill last week and a nice weather for a change. We started getting the track equipment out. We had it, all the mats out, had a whole kit. That stuff's out, ready to go. Baseball and softball practice had started. We put the net up in the gym, the batting cage. Weather's been nice, but we're still having practice inside. So, we started cleaning up the parking lots. We got the gravel, started getting the gravel cleaned up. Then we'll, as soon as we get the upstairs, the high school topped up, we'll get the bleachers started moving them up, be ready for graduation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Diane, would you also do transportation?
Sure. A, consideration to approve to pay the allocated credit knowledge figure to district band contractors and two Planner County Career Center bus runs as the contracted daily rate during the school district closure from October 30th, 2020 until January 8th, 2021. The calculation for the band contractors pay will be based on the total pay from October 2020 divided by the number of days transporting students to calculate the daily rate. This daily rate will be paid for 40 days and will not include any additional revenue for the delivery of school lunches during this time frame. So
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries.
B, consideration to approve John Gumble as a driver for Bob McClendon upon receipt of all appropriate documentation and an interview with the administration. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so moved.
C, consideration to approve Brady Kylie as a driver for Randy McClendon upon receipt of all appropriate documentation and an interview with the administration. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Carrie, would you do the miscellaneous for us?
Sure. Someone want to give us a career center report? Corey or Denise?
Not much, everything seems to be running smooth. Everything's back to, they started the same time we did too. So everything seems to be going good. She hasn't said there's any complaints. I don't even know if they have many quarantined right now. I think it seems to be going pretty good, so.
Awesome. And a copy of the unapproved minutes was provided to us in our documents. IU report, Lena.
This is what I'm looking at. So they gave us some information on the TAC team, which is training and consultation team. And they said that if the school districts want to have the TAC team come for any professional development, that they need to submit it now because they fill it very quickly. I'm sure you know that. We hired a special education supervisor and then we totally approved the 2021-2022 general operating budget.
And a copy of the minutes was also provided to us in our documents. And their budget.
Do we have to approve that?
Yes.
All right, consideration to approve the 2021-2022 Riverview Intermediate Unit General Operating Budget as attached. So moved.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Did we lose Jen?
I'm opposed.
Okay, anybody opposed? Is that you? Are you opposing, Jen?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries.
Do you have any correspondence?
I don't have any, I've seen any.
Kelly, Technology Committee update?
Yeah, Jen, you can speak up here if I'm trying to remember what all we did, because I don't have my notes, but we just discussed where we were at this far, discussed what was happening with E-rate. We talked about how we're gonna handle bringing these devices back and whether we're gonna collect them, how we're gonna collect them. Aaron, Jeff talked about that and how we might, whether we're gonna have them cleaned over the summer. We talked about the new purchases we're gonna make. The big discussion was also about next year. Are we gonna let students take the devices home? Or are we gonna have them keep them here? They've had some damage, am I correct, Aaron, with some of the ones that are going home, but it seems to be a few select students who are causing issues. And we discussed, how are we gonna hold them responsible? And are we gonna, how can we require parents to purchase the insurance when we have to give them a device? They're not gonna can't deny giving them the device, and how do we require them to buy insurance? And we really didn't come up with a solution on that as of yet, have we? I think that was it, wasn't
We
it?
really didn't. Yeah, that was about it. Yeah, I think that was about it that we covered.
Okay, so I think we're meeting again in May, and we'll finalize what the plans are as to whether we're gonna allow students to take them home and have an idea how we're gonna collect these and move from there, so. That's the technology report.
Okay. Athletic Committee update. We did not meet last week just because of the conclusion of the winter sports and spring sports starting last week. So we have a meeting on the 23rd. I don't think we haven't had an update since, right? Okay. Finance Committee?
We met on Tuesday and we discussed the state budget. We talked about the ESSER money. We took a look, we did a detailed analysis of ACV and how much we were spending per student. And then Emmy really did a nice job by breaking down the expenditures associated with staffing. So we took a look at retirement, we took a look at healthcare, and how she builds the budget. So very educational for the committee. Moving forward, we will be meeting on the second Monday of each month because Mark Bertel's schedule changed just briefly. And Emmy, is there anything you'd like to add? Did I miss?
No, I think that's good.
Everything from the finance committee. Thanks, Karen.
Okay, so is there any old business? Okay, under new business, we need to look at the itinerary. We need to approve the proposed itinerary for the senior class trip to Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, Tennessee from May 14th through 16th, 2021 as attached in our documents. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion for that?
I make a motion to consideration to approve the proposed itinerary for the senior class trip to Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Tennessee from May 14th through the 16th, 2021 as attached.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries.
I do
And
want
I
to
believe,
just add just a public thank you to Clay and Linda Snyder. We're covering the cost of the students' hotel rooms while they're staying, so that's very generous of Clay and Linda, so I just wanted to make sure that they are thanked and recognized for their generosity.
yes, should we send them a card and say thank you from the board?
I would like to do that for the board.
Okay, so can you do that, Tammy? Thank you. All right, so I think that's it. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm not gonna ask if you're opposed or if you want to stay.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.